Hello, my dear patrons. Welcome to another mini-sode of Writing Beauties, in which I give writing advice to you aspiring authors out there. As voted on by $3 plus patrons, today we will be covering the topic of developing character relationships, which I have been wanting to do for a while. As longtime fans will know, the majority of my fanfics are ship fics, or romance. Or, if romance is not the main focus, there is some romance somewhere. My personal belief is that in every story, there should be some kind of love. It doesn't always have to be romantic, but can be familial, platonic. When characters have a special bond, it can make the story all the more engaging and relatable, as we all have people that we love, in some capacity. A problem I often see arise where romance is concerned, in all forms of media, not just fanfics, is that the main couple is not always believable, which makes the story fail as a romance. If I can't ship them by the end, when they get together, then what was the point of what I just saw? This problem has shown up in the past as well as the present. Romance can be rushed like in most Disney films, which I can let slide as they are based on speedy romances called fairy tales, and mostly directed for kids, and you don't want to get too much into detail of how the romance goes. But sometimes unhealthy relationships can get romanticized, like Sandy and Danny in Grease. How the sweet, good Sandra Dee completely changes into a bad girl who smokes just for some guy who touched her non-consensually and took no responsibility for it. Okay, don't get me wrong, it took me a while to fully understand how to write relationships. To this day, I'm still criticized for my somewhat abusive presentation of Fluttershy and Discord in Bride of Discord. As someone who's grown since her early writing days at 18, I wish I'd done a few things differently with that fic. The only excuse I can give is that, at the time, I was ignorant to the nature of abusive relationships some other women could get into, having not gone through the situation myself. I've learned a lot since then, and I try not to repeat my mistakes. That is not to say you have to be in a relationship to write one. All you have to do is just observe the people around you. But let's start at the beginning. If you're writing a romance, you'll want readers to root for the couple to get together. You'll want them to ship it. Some of the best fics I've read feature a ship I do not like personally, yet the author presents it in a way I can want the couple in the context of the story to get together, without changing my mind of the ship as a whole. The most important question you must ask yourself is, why are these two characters in love? And don't answer it's because they're beautiful or handsome, unless you're doing this to show why the relationship fails. They're too engrossed in each other's beauty to see other attributes. Think about what the two characters have in common. What they talk about. Are they intellectual equals? Do they both like video games? It's good for them to have some kind of common ground. That way they can carry a conversation. But don't make them carbon copies of each other that agree on everything, otherwise it's going to get really boring. There needs to be some tension, some conflict, some place in which they don't agree, which could pose a problem, but they work through it. Take Cheese Sandwich and Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony. It is confirmed that they're married in the finale. Both are party ponies and zany and random, but they have differing comedy styles. They have much in common, and that's actually why Pinkie is initially jealous of Cheese, because she was worried that he would be her replacement. So sometimes common ground doesn't mean instant chemistry, but a couple doesn't have to be exactly the same either. Think of the idiom, opposites attract, but you don't want them to be so opposite that they're fighting all the time, which is why Celestia and Discord is not a shippable couple for me. Couples argue, but it shouldn't be to a point of constant conflict. Although opposites attract is one of my favorite romance tropes because of Beauty and the Beast. The best example I can think of for opposites attract is Tiana and Naveen from The Princess and the Frog. Tiana's worked hard her entire life with no time for fun. Naveen is all play and no work, contrasting to Tiana's all work and no play, as he's been living the spoiled, rich, royal life. Naturally, the two clash at first with their completely opposite personalities, but they end up influencing each other. She teaches him the value of hard work, and he teaches her how to have fun, bringing them both to a very healthy balance. And they even renovate and run a restaurant together. Now that's the ultimate egalitarian relationship. I like to think a more appropriate term for a healthy couple than opposites attract is equal opposites. Partners may sometimes share goals or personality traits or interests, but they can contrast in other areas. Rather than differences being a problem, it allows room for the relationship to grow. As long as those differences are respected, the relationship is healthy, and people do not change themselves purely for the purpose of keeping a partner. Any change in a person can happen subconsciously, but purposeful change should have more to do with self-worth. Don't get me wrong, some change, like being kinder to others, can be good, it just shouldn't be forced. In romance, a writer should always be mindful of the first meeting. Disney is famous for the love at first sight trope. As much as I love Disney, it's not my favorite trope, especially as an asexual woman. I do believe in attraction at first sight, and this is mostly a physical response, but there can be some personal attraction after a meaningful conversation. Conversations are important with relationships, how your characters interact. I always like to throw in a little banter. Shows that these characters regard each other as equals, respecting even opposing opinions. Have them open up about their fears, their secrets, their dreams, their beliefs. Intimacy is not just physical, but emotional. As an asexual, I don't mind sex scenes so much if I feel characters care about each other enough to take this major step, and this is referring to adult romance. But don't have them jump into bed immediately, not if you want readers to care about the couple. Even for a younger audience, don't force romance. Or just insert a love interest for the sake of being a love interest with no other purpose. This is why the majority of the My Little Pony fandom has an extreme dislike for Flash Sentry and Timber Spruce. Cause that's all they are, obligatory male love interests for Twilight Sparkle. So yes, even male love interests can be forced sometimes. Of course, don't just think about why your couple is in love. Think about what is stopping them from getting together right away. Conflict makes a story, and the relationship much more interesting. Because in real life, no relationship is easy or perfect, even the healthy ones. It can be a physical obstacle, like distance, a war, the law, them being a different species or age, within consent, but perhaps a few decades or centuries of a gap. Is one of them immortal? Of course, these are stuff that might be in an unrealistic genre like fantasy or paranormal. Or is it an internal conflict? Do these characters have differing morals or beliefs? Does one of them have a past failed relationship? Insecurities? When you're creating a psychoanalysis of your character, it will affect how they form relationships. Maybe arguments will arise out of a misunderstanding or a mistake. Couples will fight, but healthy ones find ways to talk through them and come out stronger. Of course, if you want the romance to take a tragic turn, maybe those problems don't get resolved. But show enough so that when the tragedy hits, the readers are more heartbroken that the couple has not ended up together. You'll want to develop a relationship at a reasonable pace. Think of the 5 acts of Beauty and the Beast that I've mentioned in some of my older Beauties and Beasts episodes. First you got Act 1, the intro to the characters. Act 2, how the couple comes into contact. Act 3, contact. Act 4, there is some betrayal or major obstacle to tear the couple apart. Then Act 5, you have the resolution, or not resolution if it's a tragedy. If romance is a subplot, you may not have to focus so much on the relationship itself. If it's a pre-established couple, remember that even relationships lasting a long time will continue to have problems. These rules apply to families and friendships too, minus the romance. Relationships that are the main focus will have major conflicts. But if it's a secondary relationship, you can still have some conflict, from minor to none at all. Just know, if you want a relationship to be toxic, don't give it a happy ending. That's why the Twilight Saga has fallen out of popularity. A good relationship should make you feel good about yourself, not worse. If you change, it should be for the better and more for yourself than someone else. It can be the result of someone else's influence, but not forced. Like, act this way or wear through. Easy decision, wear through. But really, if someone tries to take complete control of your life, it's not healthy. Alright, if you guys want some more tips on writing relationships, then just let me know. Be sure to vote in the next poll, and check your Gmail for the link for the next topic of writing beauties. Until then, write well and write beautiful.